So in this segment, I want to discuss John Curtis saying that we're looking at an election where it's much more the Tories losing rather than Labour winning, and dispel kind of the narrative that Starmer's Labour are doing so good. They've taken so many points off the Tories when, that's not really happened. And, it does kind of indicate their lead might be a bit more hollow than people are suggesting, purely because you're relying on anti-Tory hatred rather than pro-Labour feelings. And so when push comes to shove, during the debates and things like that, if Starmer doesn't look too great in his interviews, which I think he's looked a bit better in recent weeks, but again, he's quite shaky, and some of them I'm a bit nervous, especially when the polls don't reflect the don't knows in the direct polling graph. So that's another concern I have.
So let's... Well, do you see these as clear trends that are coming through this poll? Labour not doing so well in perhaps its urban strongholds, Reform eating into the Tory vote where it's holding off a Labour threat. Are these clear trends?
They're clear trends, they're consistent trends, they're not new. They've been very clearly in evidence for at least the last 12 months. So certainly don't rely on arguments that say that this pattern has something to do with the reaction of some voters to the Gaza war or the Green.
Interesting.
For those of us who watch these things, we're going, why is everybody so surprised? Of course, this is what's happening. But the first thing I would say to you, Matthew, however, is that the focus for this story is not Labour, it is the Conservatives. I mean, let's just remember, first of all, on average, Labour in the opinion polls are up 10 points. The Conservatives are down by over 20 points. We are looking at an election where indeed the Conservatives are on course to lose much more than Labour to win. It's partly those figures I've just quoted you. The other reason why this is the case, there are two crucial events that are responsible for where we are now. The first is the initial revelations about Partygate back in December 2021, and the second is the Liz Truss fiscal event in September, October 2022. Virtually all of the change that's happened in party support occurred in the immediate wake of those two events. Now, then the other thing you have to realise is this: what we're talking about is the Conservative Party. Yes, it's true Labour are doing somewhat better in places which the Conservatives are defending, but the principal reason the thing that's going on is not a change in the geography of the Labour vote, it's a change in the geography of the Conservative vote. The Conservative vote is down by 26 points, according to this latest YouGov MRP poll, in constituencies they're trying to defend against Labour, whereas they're only down by 13.5 points in wards where the Conservatives are second to Labour. Now, in part, this is simply arithmetic.
So, and this, I mean, this is a guy who, forget what the rest of the people say on YouTube and stuff. This guy right here is the guy they wheel up when elections come in, when they want to talk about polling data. This is the guy right here, Professor Sir John Curtis. And what he is saying is, we are looking at an election where it's much more the Tories losing rather than Labour winning them. And I don't know if there's a way for the Tories to win these voters back, but it's very possible that in 5 years' time, these voters will swing back around, because what we've seen, this is again according to Sir Goat Curtis,
boxes of where we're at, is that despite Sir Keir Starmer's best endeavours, the structuring of the Labour Party vote in particular, with reference to people's attitudes
please stop hitting the table,
towards Brexit, is almost exactly the same now as it was 4 years ago. Yes, it is true. The Labour Party, relatively speaking, has gained ground amongst those people who voted Leave in 2016. That is true. However, one has already suggested, a chunk of those people who voted Leave in 2016, who voted Conservative in 2019, who would now vote Labour, no longer believe in Brexit. They say they would vote to rejoin. What? So the Leave voters that Labour have got are not typical Leave voters. One. Two, because in line with the movement of the public as a whole, which is now around 57-58% in favour of rejoining, that 10% swing in favour of being part of the EU, which has occurred amongst the public in general since 2016, is also evident amongst those people who voted for Labour in 2019. So the people who voted for Labour in 2019 are now more anti-Brexit than they were in 2019. And then, of course, the third thing is that the young people who couldn't vote in 2016, They're overwhelmingly pro-Labour and they're overwhelmingly opposed to Brexit. And indeed, if you actually look at the arithmetic of why we've got to 57 or 58, actually it has always been that second group of people who didn't.
So this argument, John Curtis explains why Brexit voters, that UK Labour has recaptured them. So these voters have defaulted back. Some of them would have been pro-Brexit. Brexit is done. Some of them would have lent the Tories their vote, first-time Tory voters, because of all the levelling up promises, because they didn't like Jeremy Corbyn, etc. Corbyn's gone. Brexit is done. These voters, seeing the Tories, probably don't like what they see, and they've come back towards Labour. Some of them are going to go to Reform, but I think on the whole, they've come back to Labour. And so that's what I mean, this is how, this is what we could see with the Labour Party winning if they don't get much done in the first 5 years, in that first term, which I'm very nervous about based on what they are saying. If they don't get much done, what that will mean is that those voters will swing back potentially to the Conservative Party, maybe even swing to Reform, and that's where we run into real problems. So, first-time Tory voters, they look like they've come back towards Labour, or at least not voting Tory, which is one of the keys here.
Not voting 2016 are absolutely fundamental to understanding why we are where we are. So therefore, as a result, you actually do the arithmetic. Labour Party's vote is about 75%, a pro-EU vote. It's down on the 82% of 2019, but it's still very heavily structured. So the point is, I'm not arguing that the Labour Party have gained anything as a result of Brexit or whatever, but the point is, the crucial point is that Labour's presumption that they could not get into an election-winning position without fundamentally changing the character of their support vis-à-vis Brexit has been demonstrated to be false.
And that's it. Labour, this is what he's saying, Labour didn't have to take that position. And this is what I've said on a lot of things. Labour necessarily didn't have to take the positions they have done, but they've chosen to do it because all they do is follow polling and triangulation. But they don't factor into the fact that people's opinions can change on things. And one of the things Labour could do if they were smart, push people's opinions to change based on what they're saying, push for policies. But all they do is, as soon as they get any flag on major policies, they crumble. Apple crumble real fast. Real fast. And that's the thing that hurts, on the 28 billion spending, things like that, they crumbled. Whether, they could have argued for it. I think they could have just said, look, the Tories wasted £36 billion, I think it's £38 billion on test and trace. Imagine that money was spent on the economy, how good we could have had, or what we could have done with that money. And I think that's what Labour could have ran with. But no, but I guess it doesn't really matter anyways. But if you look at what John Curtis is saying here, you can see the Tories are losing rather than Labour winning, which again means that for that second Labour term, it's nervier. And the fact that more kind of commentators don't point this out and they talk about Labour actually, earning that, poll lead is complete garbage, in my opinion, garbage. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.